out of my ass also. Just just kind of, because when, I sat there and I thought, how else could you not be, even idealism becomes dogmatic once you adhere to it, but I was like dogmatic in terms of a tradition, it's not really, but if you think about it in terms of like a self-dogma, a self-reiterative process, then certainly I thought, yeah, it seems to me that idealism can be dogmatic and that they don't necessarily war against one another, but when you look at one as a fixed, historic, inherited idea, and the other one is something that you build up internal momentum for, you build up a sensation for, then I could see how you might want to say one is in contra to the other, but I still wanted to bound them together again. That was the cool thing about Derrida, is he would bind things and then he would pull them apart and do so in a particular fashion that was just really, really nice. I'm trying to think of examples of where he does that, but just his dichotomies or his binaries that he set up, it was just brilliant to watch him set him up and then deconstruct them. He was a real bowler. It's just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, you sound like my brother talking about farting. Yeah. Well, I probably draw people in for a quick peek, but when they see it's just me and I'm not in some super active debate with anybody, then, it's probably not a huge appeal. Or maybe some of them are thinking they'll circle back in a while or something like that, but who knows? So do you ever comment on Anton's videos there, Objecta? I can only imagine that you do. You probably, hell, you probably responded to some of my stuff on there. Or maybe I responded to some of your stuff on there. Yeah, his latest shtick about, not the latest, but a few times ago, about making the auditory universe primacy over the visual, that one really caught me off guard because maybe I'm so investigating my visual field all the time that I'm emotionally bound to it. So it's at least as reactive, if not more reactive, or I'm more reactive to my visual field than my auditory field. But yeah, I imagine anybody that's got some philosophical acumen would comment on Anton's videos, finding, parsing it apart and disagreeing with it at times and enjoying it at times. I need text comments, man. Say, blood. I hope Josh is in. Right on. Get the regular crew. Ba, 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 ba. Yup, yup, what's up? Say, blah, what's happening? Shit, blah. Y'all want to talk some titty? Still waiting for someone to know the movie that's from. Oh, well, I made up the term. I never heard solipsistic naturalism before, so I did my best to lay out an argument for it there. Right on. Yeah, I was mistaken about Young's Red Book. You can't get it on PDF. You can only get the reader of the Red Book on PDF. And he's the closest thing I would think that I could relate to in Philip K. Dick. I don't know why they come to mind so much besides the fact that I feel like I relate to them. Okay. Well, the crux of it's interesting to call it a crux. It's a looping back around from solipsism back to naturalism, but you have to accept all paradigms in your solipsistic nature. Well, you don't have to, but I do in my solipsistic world. But it's reducing everything back to center. All value, all positioning is in the center. But when the shoe drops and you're relating to your objective universe, then you appeal to the normative, and that normative is science. You should appeal to where the crowd, where the community is going mostly. I shouldn't say you should do that, but if you, it's an appeal back to naturalism, even after you found that you're living in a holographic state. You can reground. It's like a regrounding process is the idea behind it. I don't remember what I was saying about credence and testimony. The testimony of that woman, you'd have to clarify that, Josh. I've read some of the Red Book, but I want to get a hold of it so I actually have the illustrations and everything in hand. And then I've read secondary authors discussing the Red Book, and that's why I want to get a hold of it. If you cared to, if you ever wanted to rent out your copy of it, that would be great. I haven't checked my local library, but the last time I checked my local library, they didn't have it. So if you ever felt like you wanted to rent that out to somebody or lend it out to me, I'd give you my shipping address and let you ship it out. Hell, I'd send you an art print as a favor for doing that. If you gave me a month to spend on it, that would be great. On acid, Neutral monism. Well, I don't know how that relates to. I mean, I like the sound of it. I like the neutral part, and I like the monism part, like a singular node. But as far as reading it as a philosophy, I'm not I'm not too familiar with neutral monism, reincarnation and hash. Oh, right, right. Now I know what you're talking about. Oh, wow. Okay, so the book is off in the distance. Yeah, I'd be curious how you got a hold of it. You say somebody gifted it to you, huh? Yeah, you'd have to explain neutral monism to me more, Objecta. Give me the crux of that, I guess. Or I could just Google it. But I prefer your words over a Google search. You have to excuse me a second. Oh, agoraphobic. All right, on. Yeah, he seems like a nervous kid, but he seems like a bright kid, muscling his way through everything. And it sounds like he wants to be a professor. It sounds like that's kind of his goal or something. Of course, I just started subscribing to him, so I don't really know what what his real gig is, what he's trying to do with himself. Ow, ow! Ow, ow, vulture time. Er. So back to neutral monism. Don't make me look it up, man. What I suspect neutral monism is holding no position, holding a singular position of neutrality that allows you to move actively, kinetically into any other paradigm that you see fit, and that you default right back to a neutral state. That's just how I would surmise that idea if I was pulling it out of the air, which I am. See, I wondered, Jung speaks a little bit like it appears as if it's a magical hallucination that occurs to him as opposed to him going through some ritual. But I also think that there might be some ritual to it. And since you have the Red Book, I don't know what of the Red Book you've read, but does he speak of ritual, like ritualistic magic processes, or does he just simply fall into a maddening, insane chaos? Don't answer so quickly. I'm painting here. Oh yeah, you keep using parallax. Parallax view, the usual history of the form and content, matter, and mind. Wow. A displacement or difference in the apparent position of an object viewed. Yeah, I think that's what I mean by going into paradigm. A paradigm being any verbal context, any textual framework that is conceptualized by a being as a paradigm, that you could step into that as a difference from self, from a singular monad of being. Well, he stepped into a closet to get his visions. Yeah, he seems like he's right up my alley then. I go through a prayer mantra in different silent states. Feel like I'm interacting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine he just picking out pieces of the collective unconscious, or what you would call the collective unconscious. But it can it doesn't have to be modern at all, because he studied ancient art and artifacts, and so he's working with a hell of a repertoire to pull from the collective unconscious as he saw fit, as he saw it. But just the idea that it was kind of a secret madness that happened to him around his 40th birthday is what's really impressive about it. And how he spoke about losing all of it. All of his power and everything went empty, fell empty. The cultural narrative. Can't you call your rich aunt or whoever's at home and have them ship it out to me? Now you got me jonesing for it. I'm painting a Hathor right here, a cow god with horns and a sun in the horns, standing with the left foot forward, Egyptian style god. We've covered it on camera. Well, I don't know if there's any kind of thing that I could give you to, as kind of like a collateral for it, and if you would feel trusting enough to send it to some guy you met online. But I would certainly pay for shipping and then have it shipped back. I could do all transactions through PayPal. But
Yeah, we'll exchange information or something, and you can decide. Yeah, yeah, like that, Norm. Yeah, I like the idea of the meta-narrative for difference, or expanding oneself out of a preconditioned narrative. See, I just think the older you get, the wiser you get. And if you're in the field, then you're going to write some pretty remarkable stuff. But I always like the genius of the youth. People that come up with amazing stuff at such young ages. You know, like Facebook. No, not like Facebook, but not unlike Facebook. Oh. And he stopped having them, and then his visions were kind of returned to that. Oh, hey, Dune, by the way. Oh. Oh, well, yeah, I'd buy it off. Yeah, I don't know um, what I can afford right now, but I definitely laid something down. I mean, I don't know what you're looking for it. Radio. Well, yeah, I could buy it off of you. Then if you were interested later in buying it back, I would maybe sell it to you. I don't know. But if you weren't interested in buying it back, that would be fine too. I would love to have it in my collection. I know that I need to read it. It's imperative that I read that book, just based on what I've heard. But it can't be the Red Book reader, and it isn't, obviously, if you've seen the illustrations in it. Mess with this world a bit. Yeah, well, he'd be interesting to get involved with, but I think Anton would warn him about me, and then he'd stay clear of me. But you know, I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't really want to try to mess with anyone's head, and I don't actually know if I could mess with his head. You know, he's pretty well put together guy there, but and what's interesting is that you actually, I don't know if he commented on your comment, and hence you went back to the video, or if you just kind of go back to videos that you've commented on to see if there's anything else that anyone else has said about the video. It's not his philosophy, but his empirical being. Yeah, the later, his psychological being is a Lacanian who has all the hallmark traits of Lacan's understanding of neurosis. Huh. That's how you surmise him, huh? He does seem like he's got a little bit of a neurotic tick. Well, hell, Dune, I won't let you get away without giving you, without getting your email address or giving you mine so we can swap goodies. So I'll just lay down mine. And you can write to me, at least I'll have your connection, let me know it's you. And if anybody else has any need to write to me, they can do that as well. Yeah, I need anybody else that's fallen into complete madness that still resembles, has a semblance of sanity to them. Especially when I heard about the Red Book and that it was Jung's, I was just dying. I thought, oh man, this is, and it was so timely to my own madness that I heard about it, but I just couldn't afford the book. I mean, it's pretty spendy on my current state, financial state. Ah. Okay, yeah, feel free. Put something in the subject line so I know it's you. I mean, mad, like cool or awesome. What do I think of drugs? As a use to understand? Imagine you were going to type something else but after understand. Or perceive. Well, I've used a lot of drugs, and I kind of like the Terence McKenna answer for that aliens contact those who are inebriated or intoxicated, and it feels like my vision of self and how it is I actually can engage with the universe opens up drastically under hallucinogenic drugs, more particularly than speeds, or I don't know. I never really used downers. I think I might have used one downer of barbiturate once, but I've used speeds and those were interesting. But the hallucinogenic drugs were the ones that seemed to open up my perspective dramatically. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can get into complete fearful modes of being where I'm completely subjugated by the powers that be. Um, meth and alcohol, weed every day. Wow, you're really living it. Um, well, when I used any speeds in the past and mixed alcohol with them, the alcohol was pretty much, I could have been drinking water. It was roughly the same state. So, you know, why spend your money on alcohol if you're going to use speeds or uppers? But I imagine you'll probably come to some grip around yourself eventually. And if you are scaring yourself, then you're obviously traveling into states of mind that are unknown and bigger and broader than your current perspective of the world. I imagine that can be uncanny and nerve-wracking and delightful all at the same time. What's the 13th step? Well, that's why being possessed or tainted by a symbol, that's why I'm painting this, is it's in a way I'm really afraid that I'm going to be invoking these symbols back into my psychology somehow and put me in a real fearful mode. But the whole theme of the painting is rising outside of the symbols or rising up into more graceful symbols and symbolism. I don't know, Shulgin. Yeah, yeah, I like the idea of the snake eating its tail. Yeah, I've heard of the band. Well, I've heard of Psychonaut. I don't know if I've heard of Psychonaut 4. Okay. Sean got his PhD in chemistry in the 50s or 60s. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people on here that are on drugs. They're dilapidated physically or psychologically. They've got a lot of time to listen to philosophy, and I somehow seem to attract those types as well as intellectuals, pseudo-intellectuals, and and some people of a freakish nature and of an artsy, fartsy nature, not to mention a Mandam. Right on. AMA. Yeah, that's one Objecta9. There was some guy on here that claimed to have met him. His book, Pickle, is a great story. Was it Mr. Natural? I don't think so, but I don't really know. Could be. I'm pretty sure I heard him call Shulgin his personal friend. What, Crumb? You heard Crumb call Shulgin his personal friend? Because he's the one that came up with Mr. Natural. Just the four of us. Ooh. There we go. Gotta get this kind of Gulfry looking guy painted in. Yeah, I bumped into an old friend at the grocery store, and I told him that I've been holding back on my art. I've been retracting and not really, doing the highest gore or the wildest sort of symbolism or characterizations that I possibly could be doing. He's like, no, don't hold back. It's bad to hear you hold back. And I'm like, well, it's kind of my thing, and to not get too involved in it, kind of treat things more like a journalist than somebody that's submitted. Self-submitting. I submit myself to the universe of loony bins. I'm in a loony bin asylum. I paint loony bin asylums, but not gore paintings. I've never been into heavy metal, not the hard stuff. Well, there was a time I was into the hard stuff, but it was more just out of curiosity, like, what are they saying? What is this theme about? It took me forever as a young man to understand politics. The bands actually talked about politics, because I always thought, what an ineffectual way to do anything about politics. You're making a song, of all things. That's nothing. That'll do nothing. Now I realize they can't do much of anything. Right, right. I think the same way. They're vacuous of ethics for the most part, and it's all death metal. You don't trust anyone who doesn't like Michael Payton. Hoopa. I'm gonna paint the middle ground here. Middle guys are dropping them. Deathless great chunk of a man. Suffer, etc. Talks about anti-natal things, basically a fag. Kitty. It's my vaporizer, kitty. Yeah, I wondered how much Nietzsche actually affected music. I think Nietzsche's affected things in tremendous ways. Music and philosophy and literature, maybe even political movements. I wonder whether or not Nietzsche affected the Second World War with his literature, how he affected Heidegger, other authors. Keep hearing about Heidegger's tie to Nazism, but I don't know whether or not I buy into that. It was funny when Anton was bringing up Heidegger and someone brought up his Nazi connection. They almost implied that Anton was speaking of a pro-Nazi dialectic. Kind of think it caught him off guard where he had to defend it in a video, or he didn't have to defend it, but he defended it anyway. Defended Heidegger. I could sure use one of you boys docking. Oh, yep. Yep, I could. Guys talking about death metal bands. Yeah, if you guys want to spit out some lyrics there, you're more than welcome. Have either of you guys heard of Cody Brooks, the young blues singer? I should say the young white blues singer, because there's a lady black rapper. It's also named Cody Brooks. I'll turn around to see you say no, you have not heard of him. He's just barely getting on the scene in Nashville. Barely getting some endorsements now. Singing his crazy wild tunes. Yeah, he's somebody I've been listening to. If you Google search Cody Brooks music, you'll see a song called Dirty show up on the top of the list. CODYBROOKS music.
And it's a pretty solid song. I'm trying to get the use of that song. Well, I already got the rights to use the song. That's why I was wondering if anyone heard of him. Because I know he's brand new on the scene. But he's got such a good, dark feel to him. And he's young and he's vibrant. He's got his shit together. He's got another song called Snake in the Kitchen, which I really like. Here we go. Well, let's see, I'm going on 46 minutes, so I think I'm going to call this video a wrap. And everybody, thanks for loving my mohawk. Rah! 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 Boo! Boo 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 boo.